Riza wiped the synthetic oil from his hands, staring at the dismantled thruster core spread across his workbench. The orbital station Prometheus hummed around him, a symphony of machinery that had become his lullaby over the past 3 years. He was good at his job, the best human mechanic in the Outer Rim, some said. He could rebuild a graviton engine blindfolded and diagnose a faulty plasma conduit by sound alone, but none of that prepared him for what Diana had just said. "Meet your what?" he asked, looking up at her. Diana stood in the doorway of his workshop, all 7 feet of her scaled magnificence backlit by the station's corridor lights. Her crimson scales caught the light like polished rubies, and her golden eyes, those eyes that had first captivated him 6 months ago, watched him with an expression somewhere between amusement and nervousness. "My clan," she repeated, her tail swishing behind her in that way it did when she was anxious. "Tomorrow. They're docking at Bay 7 for the Treaty Summit. The Drakthar, dragon people, apex predators from Skorath Prime, a world where everything evolved to either breathe fire or run very, very fast from things that did. They had joined the Galactic Coalition only 15 years ago, and the peace was still fragile, still new. And Riza was dating one of them. "Diana," he started. "Pretend you're not afraid," she said quickly, stepping into the workshop. Her claws clicked softly on the metal floor. "Please, Riza, I know my people have a reputation. I know what the propaganda footage looked like during the border wars, but they need to see that humans aren't what they think either." Riza set down his tools. The border wars. He'd been a kid then, watching the news feeds with his parents on Earth, watching Drakthar warriors tear through starship hulls with their bare hands, watching them breathe plasma fire that could melt titanium. The Coalition had made peace, yes, but nightmares didn't follow political treaties. "What do they think humans are?" he asked quietly. Diana moved closer, and despite everything, despite the very reasonable part of his brain that wanted to activate every flight instinct in his body, Riza didn't move, because this was Diana. Diana, who laughed at his terrible jokes. Diana, who had cried when he'd repaired her grandmother's navigation medallion. Diana, who fell asleep during movies and snored tiny puffs of smoke. "Weak," she said simply. "Soft, breakable. They don't understand why I chose you." Her voice dropped. "My mother called you the monkey boy." Riza laughed. He couldn't help it. "Monkey boy? Riza, this isn't funny." "It's a little funny." He stood, barely reaching her shoulder. "What do I need to do?" Diana's eyes widened. "You'll do it? You'll meet them?" "Diana, I rebuilt a fusion reactor while it was still running because the station would have lost life support if I shut it down. I once held a plasma coupling together with my bare hands, through insulated gloves, but still, for 45 minutes while my team evacuated a section. Humans might be soft, but we're too stupid to know when we should be afraid." That wasn't quite true. Riza was terrified. But he'd learned something working in the black. Fear was just information. It told you something was dangerous. It didn't tell you to run. "There will be 17 of them," Diana said, and Riza could hear the relief in her voice. "My mother, my father, my 3 brothers, and various aunts, uncles, and cousins. They'll test you. They'll try to intimidate you. What do I do?" Diana smiled, showing rows of teeth that could punch through hull plating. "What you always do. Be human." Bay 7 was a cathedral of metal and light designed to accommodate ships from every coalition species. The Drakthar vessel. Skorath's vengeance squatted in the center like a sleeping volcano, all black scales and red running lights. Riza stood beside Diana wearing his cleanest jumpsuit, still stained with a year's worth of work, and carrying a toolbox. "Why did you bring that?" Diana whispered. "Moral support," Riza whispered back. The airlock hissed open and they came. 17 Drakthar, each one a masterwork of evolution's cruelest design. Horns and scales and claws and eyes that had hunted megafauna through volcanic wastelands. Diana's mother emerged first, nearly 8 feet tall. Her scales a deep purple-black that seemed to absorb light. She looked at Riza the way a scientist might examine a particularly unimpressive bacterium. "This is the human," she said in Galactic Common, her accent thick and musical. "This is Riza," Diana said firmly. "My partner." The silence stretched. 17 pairs of predatory eyes fixed on him. Riza felt his heart hammering against his ribs. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to do anything except stand there in the open. But he thought about the reactor, the plasma coupling, The 1,000 times he'd chosen to walk toward danger instead of away from it. He set down his toolbox and bowed. Not a subservient bow, but a respectful one. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. "I know this isn't what you wanted." Diana's oldest brother, a massive male with battle-scarred scales, snorted smoke. "You're correct. It isn't." "Riza is the lead mechanic for this entire station," Diana said, her voice tight. "He keeps 3,000 people alive every day." "Impressive for a monkey," another relative muttered. Riza smiled. "Actually, humans aren't technically monkeys. We're apes. Different branch of the evolutionary tree. But I see why the confusion exists. We do share certain characteristics with our primate cousins. Opposable thumbs, for instance." He held up his hands. "Very useful for fine motor control. Your ships are magnificent, by the way. I noticed the heat dissipation array on your starboard side. Scorathian biotech, right? Self-healing alloys?" Diana's mother tilted her head. "You recognize our technology?" "I study everything I can," Riza said. "I've never worked on a Drakthar ship before. Our species' tech trees diverged too much during the war years, but I'd love to learn. Your approach to thermal management is decades ahead of ours." He wasn't lying. He wasn't flattering. He was just being himself, endlessly curious, respectful of good engineering regardless of who built it. Something shifted in the matriarch's eyes. "You're not afraid," she observed. Riza met her gaze. "I'm absolutely terrified," he said honestly. "But being afraid isn't the same as backing down. That's not what humans do. We're scared all the time. We're scared of the dark and the cold and the empty spaces between stars. We're scared of predators and disease and death. But we became a spacefaring species anyway. We walked toward everything that frightened us." He gestured to Diana. "Including each other. Your daughter is the smartest, kindest, most remarkable person I've ever met. I'm honored that she chose me. And if I have to stand here in front of her entire clan and pretend I'm not imagining 17 different ways you could end me, I'll do it. Because that's what love means. You face the fear." The silence that followed was different, contemplative, measuring. Finally, Diana's mother laughed. It was a sound like rocks tumbling down a mountain, warm and genuine. "The monkey has teeth after all," she said. She stepped forward and extended her clawed hand. "Welcome, Riza of Earth. Perhaps my daughter chose better than I thought." Riza took her hand. Her grip could have crushed steel, but she held his human hand with surprising gentleness. "Thank you," he managed. Diana's tail wrapped around his waist, and he could feel her trembling with relief. Later, as the introductions continued and the tension gradually dissolved into something almost familial, Diana leaned down and whispered in his ear. "You really weren't pretending, were you?" Riza squeezed her hand. "Not for a second. But that's the thing about humans, Diana. We don't have scales or claws or fire. What we have is this stupid, stubborn refusal to let fear make our decisions. It's gotten us killed a lot throughout history. But it's also gotten you to the stars," Diana finished. "Yeah," Riza said, watching her mother examine his toolbox with genuine curiosity. "Yeah, it has." And in that moment, in a loading bay on the edge of known space, surrounded by the galaxy's most fearsome predators, Riza understood something fundamental about his species. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't that they were unafraid. It was that they were afraid of everything, and they did it anyway.